Hello. Today we will be covering the topic of problem statement, how to define it, and also covering the issue of research questions and variables that we need to use in our academic research. Okay. So before we can even think about looking at the problem statement, looking at the research question we should ask, looking at the research objectives we should write, um, it's very important to decide the topic first. Okay, so hopefully at this time, by now, you already have done some reading related to a topic that you are interested in. Okay, as I have mentioned already, it's very important to have a topic that you are interested in, that you are passionate about. Okay, never ever choose a topic that is given to you by someone else, because if you don't share the same interest in that topic, then you won't be able to do the research very well. So it is very important that the topic you choose is close to your heart, and so that you will be able to focus all of your energy into doing that particular study. Okay. So as a student, at undergraduate level, of course, you need guidance also in deciding your topic. Okay, so this is what your supervisor is for. Yeah, when you have to do that research paper or that KP, you have a supervisor that you can communicate with, and this supervisor will have ample experience to help you decide whether your topic is good, appropriate, and will generate new knowledge to the area that you are looking at. Okay, so here are some examples of topics that are out there. Yeah, some people like to study the influences of social media on tourism industry. Okay, some people like to study the influence of movie setting locations on travel decision making. Yeah, some will be examining the perception and attitude of American customers towards online travel agencies. Okay, and then some will be looking at ecotourism in developing countries as compared to the developed economies. Yeah. Some research focus on new trends in tourism studies 2019, and some will focus on the role of language proficiency in medical tourism. Okay, so just these are just some examples. Okay, just by looking at this topic, you would be able to see already what the study should be all about. Yeah. So, for example, the first one here, influences of social media on tourism industry. So, of course, the constructs that the researcher will have to look at is social media. Yeah, how social media influenced the growth of tourism industry. Yeah, maybe looking at it from the positive impact and the negative impact. Yeah, so normally the topic that we choose should be clear. It should not be too long-winded. It should be within maybe at 8 to 10 words. Yeah, and then it highlights everything that the study is about. Okay, so that makes it a good topic. So again, you have to start choosing the topic first before you can start thinking about problem statement, research question, research objective, and all those. Okay. So once you already have a topic in your mind, then you have to read deeper. You have to read more in order to further identify with the issue. Yeah, further understand the issue. Okay. So this is at the point where you have to identify and define the research problem, and you can only do this by reading past studies on similar topic. Okay, what are the gaps of study there, and what are some of the things that are still not understood? That will be the foundation of your research. Yeah, the problem that your research will try to pursue or will try to address. Okay. So you will also have to read the literature in order to develop your hypothesis. Okay, hypothesis development it is required if you are working on a quantitative study, yeah, that looks at relationship between variables, yeah, between independent variables and dependent variables. Okay, so you will look at these relationships by providing some kind of hypothesis, developing some kind of hypothesis based on your understanding on past studies. Okay, so this is part of the few things that you have to do at this stage. Yeah, uh, you have to determine research questions and finally research objectives. It is very important to understand that your research questions and research objectives should be closely related, almost stated in the same way, always stated in the same way, except the RQ, the research questions, will have question mark at the end, whereas the objective is a statement rather than a question. Okay, but this is how it should be done. You have to make sure your research question aligns with your research objectives. Do not try to generate objective that is beyond what your research questions are about. Yeah, always make sure your objectives is almost similar statement as your research question. Okay, stated in the same way. So in that way, you know what exactly you are looking for in your research. Yeah. Otherwise, you will get confused. Even your readers or your examiners will also get confused. What exactly you are trying to address by doing this research. Okay. So you have to make sure your research questions and your research objectives tally. Okay. And also at this time, you have to think about the conceptual framework of the study, where you are looking at all the relevant constructs, concepts, and variables that you have to focus on. You have to critically write about in chapter 1 of your study. Yeah? So what is a problem definition? In doing an academic study, when we say problem, it is actually gap of research. Okay, gap of research here means a problem, a situation that exists between what's already known and what's desired to be known. Okay, so a problem is any situation where a gap exists between the actual, what's already known, and the desired ideal states, what should be known. Yeah, so it has to be written in a clear, precise, and succinct manner. Yeah, and the question, it has to cover the question or issue that is to be investigated with the goal of finding an answer or a solution. Okay, this is what's proposed by Sakaran in 2003. Okay, so problem has to be clear to you as a researcher first before you can actually collect data to address the gap that you are concerned about, that you try to investigate. Okay, so this can be pertaining to anything. Yeah, the problem definition that you have could pertain to existing business problems where a manager is looking for solution. This is what we do when we adopt applied study, yeah, applied research. Because if you remember, applied research is the kind of research that use our current understanding to solve a real problem. Yeah, so that would be what problem definition number 1 is about. Yeah, existing problem where a manager is looking for solution. Okay. It can also be where situations that may not pose any current problems, but which the manager feels have scope for improvement, how to do things better, how to do things in higher quality, provides a better service quality, for example. Yeah, so that is what we meant by scope for improvement. Yeah, so this can also be a kind of problem that the research has to address. Okay, and some research that would adopt basic research, they would concentrate on theory building. Yeah, they will address some issue with conceptual clarity to build better theory about something. That is basic research. That's not applied research. Yeah. So many researchers, academicians would do this kind of conceptual work. Yeah, where they will use basic research to try to address some lack of information or lack of clarity in certain theories. This is what we call theory building. Okay, so another situation is a problem where in situations where a researcher is trying to answer a research question empirically because of interest in the topic. Empirically here means using real data, going out to the field and collecting data to understand better about a research question that we have in mind. Okay, so for you guys, undergraduates, this is normally what you are after. Yeah, you will be looking at some research questions and try to answer those research questions using data that you get from your fieldwork. So that is empirical work. Okay. There are also some social, personal, and methodological considerations in the process of formulating our research problem. Okay, some social aspect of this would be to contribute to knowledge in the field. Yeah, whatever field that you're looking at under the context of tourism. Yeah, either you're looking at issue faced by hotel industry or by event industry or by spa business or any of the fragments of tourism. You whatever knowledge that you gather from your empirical research will add to the bigger understanding about the field itself. Yeah, so that's one of the social consideration. Yeah, we will also do a research because it will give practical value to practitioners and scientists in the field. Yeah, so practical value here means managerial implication. Okay, so whenever we do any research, when we report the research, we will have to also write a section on implications of the research. So this implication can be two things. Yeah, it can be either theoretical implications or theoretical contributions. If you have found something that will help improve the theoretical foundation that you have used for your research, then that is the theoretical implications. Yeah, but also there will be managerial implication. How does the finding of the study help? How could the findings of the study help managers understand the industry better or improve the industry better? Yeah, how useful would the finding be to practitioners? How practitioners could improve themselves based on those study findings? Yeah, so this section, yeah, implications of study, is a must when we do any report writing or when we write in journal articles. Yeah, journal articles, and it's like one of the criteria for evaluation. They will only accept your work or your article for publication if the section on implications are clearly written up. Okay, so that's why you have to highlight how your study findings, the data that you have collected, analyzed, and inferred to contribute to knowledge and practical aspect of that to practitioners in the field. Okay. Also, another consideration when we talk about the social aspect is originality. This is very important, yeah, because there are so many academic researchers out there. We are talking about so many universities in the world. Even if you are looking at just the context of the country, yeah, within Malaysia itself, there are so many public and private universities, and these universities offer master's program, PhD programs that require the students to do thesis, right? So can you imagine the possibility of duplicate topics out there? Yeah. So you have to make sure when you choose your topic that your topic is original. There's some aspect of your topics that make it different from other people who's doing that topic. Yeah. So originality is very important. Yeah. Sometimes we look at this originality in terms of context. Where is that particular topic being investigated? Which country? Which region in the world? Which location? Yeah. It could that could give a difference for that topic, so that researcher's work can be considered original. So please bear in mind about this when we choose a topic. Yeah, you don't want to do a topic that is very commonly done by people. For example, motivation to travel. Yeah, there's a lot of um, studies already done on motivations to travel. Yeah, even if you look at it from different contexts, from the context of Middle East, the context of Asia, the context of European countries, whatever, there have already been studies done on motivations to study. Yeah, so you have to make it more slightly different by maybe adding an intervening variable, a moderating variable or something that will make it different from past research. Okay, so that's why when we want to make sure that our topic is original, you have to search the same topic, the same key in the same title, and see what comes up in the internet, what comes up in your search engine. Yeah? So then you will know how common or how original your chosen topic is. So extra work has to be done there to make sure your topic is original. In terms of personal aspect of to consider in formulating our research problem, again, the interest that I have mentioned earlier, yeah, is very important. You cannot undermine the importance of having a passion towards the topic that you are doing. You have to like it yourself before it can be done properly. Yeah, that's why do not just accept other people's recommendation on the topic, but it has something. It has to be something that click in your mind that okay, this is a good topic for me. I would love to research on this. Okay, so that makes it yours. Yeah, that makes you more passionate about it and have a more genuine interest in the problem. Yeah, so when you do this, when you have a genuine problem to investigate the topic, then you will do well in completing the study properly. Yeah. Also, as a researcher, you need several skills that are important. Yeah, several abilities, several knowledge to do a good academic study. Yeah, for example, you have to have the ability to use computer. That's like the basic skill that you need, because nowadays nobody uses a typewriter anymore. Okay, so you have to have if you like a fast typist, that would help a lot in doing your academic study, because each time you have to type in all your information or all your research yourself. Yeah, so the faster you can type, the faster you can do your job. Yeah, you have to also have some understanding on how to choose methodology. Yeah, what methodology will fit best in which aspect, in which situation, in which context. What methodology would work best if you have certain budget or certain resource constraints. Yeah, what methodology is suitable to give you the most information. So you have to have that kind of understanding also as part of your skill and abilities. Okay, so then if you have all these necessary skills, abilities, and background, then only you can do well in your academic research. Okay, and of course you have to also have access to tools, equipment, and anything necessary to conduct the investigation. Subject here, access to subject here means access to your respondent. Okay, this relates back to the aspect of researchability that I have mentioned to you in the beginning of the course. Researchability means you have to make sure that your research is practical and that it would be easy for you to access your respondents later on when you start your fieldwork phase. Yeah, so that's why access to subject is also very important aspect when we want to consider our problem formulation. Um, Possession of time and finance are also part of that researchability that I was talking about. Yeah, the more funding you have, the bigger funding you have, the bigger coverage you can do in terms of your sampling. Yeah, and the biggest scope that you can do for your study. Yeah, so financial aspect of the plan is very important, and also time. Yeah, because even if you have a lot of money to do the study, but you lack time to properly go spend time in the field to get the appropriate amount of data, that could also become a problem for you. Okay, and other personal things that you have to consider when formulating your research problem is access to adequate data, yeah, and ability to master any support, guidance, or cooperation to conduct the study. So how will I access my data? Who are my respondents? Is it easy? Would it be easy for me to meet them, to collect data from them? How long would I have to spend to collect the data? How far do I have to travel to collect the data? Are there sufficient amount of respondents for my study? Yeah, and would it be possible for me to get some kind of support from the ministry, like a support letter from the ministry? Or would it be possible for me to interview some expert opinion on the matter? Yeah, all these are some of the things you have to consider also in trying to formulate your research problem. And then in terms of methodological aspects that you have to consider in the process of problem formulation is the fact that um, you have to choose the proper methodology. Okay, depending on your topic, it has to be about two or more variables. Okay, so if you are looking at, for example, just now um, factors influencing medical tourism, for example, that's your topic. So you have to understand what are some of the IV or independent variables that are often that have been found in past study to affect medical tourism, to affect the growth of medical tourism. Yeah, you have to the title has to be clearly written and specific. Yeah, not ambiguous. Okay, so that's why you have to choose a topic that you can where the that is clearly stated. Yeah, where is the what are the variables involved? Okay, so the problem should be stated clearly and unambiguously in the question form. Okay, unambiguously means not vague. It means very clear. That's what it means. Yeah, the problem should be such as to imply possibilities of empirical testing. Okay, so this is if we are choosing a quantitative approach as our methodology. Okay, so in quantitative approach, you have to have a hypothesis, you have to that express the relation between the variables involved, and you have to have testing of that hypothesis. Yeah, if you are doing if you chose to do this qualitatively, there will be no empirical testing. There will be no testing of the hypothesis, but it will be analyzed in the form of rich text. Yeah, um, you have to transcribe all your interviews and do a thematic analysis on that. And if you are good with computer application, there is this application called NVivo, which can help you do your data interpretation, your qualitative data interpretation more accurately, more systematically. Okay. So, in determining our research problem, we have to ask all these questions. Yeah, we have to ask, has the problem already been thoroughly investigated? How do we know this? Is by reading past literature. That's the only way to know whether the problem has already been thoroughly investigated or not. Yeah, that's one of the questions you have to ask. Another question that you have to ask is the problem important? Yeah, because sometimes the problem may be passionate to you. You may like the topic a lot, but it is not really very important today in today's world. Yeah, so because it lacks relevance to what's happening today. Yeah, so you have to decide how important is the problem. Okay, and also you have to ask questions such as, will the data collected answer the problem? Okay, this relate to the issue of access to subjects just now, access to respondents. Yeah, so are we going to be able to meet the right unit of analysis to answer the problem? Yeah, so you have to really think this through, yeah, in defining your research problem. Can the study be conducted at a more sophisticated level? Is the research scope too broad and therefore impractical? So these are some of the other questions. Yeah. So, like for example, number 4 here, can the study be conducted at a more sophisticated level? That means, is there anything that our research can do to improve what's already known about the subject matter? Yeah. So then we will do something that contribute to knowledge. Okay. The number 5 here is, the research scope too broad and therefore impractical. This relates back to researchability of the topic that you have chosen. It has to be something that is researchable and will be able to be done within the stipulated budget and time resources that you have, and it will contribute a new knowledge to the issue or the topic or the area that you are researching. Okay, so it's really important when choosing the topic, when trying to formulate the problem statement, that you are going to do something that is totally practical, yeah, researchable. Yeah, you can do your investigation when you start collecting data and analyzing your data. Okay, so the problem should also have some theoretical and practical significance, because as I have already mentioned to you just now, this is an important aspect that any publisher would like to see before they can accept to publish your paper. Okay, even your examiner would like to see this. Yeah, if you are defending your thesis or defending your research paper, you have to have this section presented also to the examiner, and if the examiner likes it, then it is higher probability that you will pass your viva or your defense. Yeah. Doable here means researchable or practical. Yeah, it's the same thing. You can adequately investigate based on your current level of research skills, available resources, time, and other restrictions. So that's why, since you guys are undergraduate and you are still just learning about research, then the topic that you should choose when you have to do KP later on is something that is doable for you, yeah, that is suitable for your level. Don't try to do very complicated investigation or complicated analysis on a topic, yeah. So you just do something that is suitable to your level of research skill, resources, and time restrictions. Okay, so be practical. Basically, just be practical. Okay. To select a topic, select you have to first identify the general area related to the topic that you are looking at. Okay, what is the general problem area? Okay, so maybe, for example, if you are looking at medical tourism just now, that is the general problem area, and then inside there you are looking at maybe the issue of cosmetic surgery, demand for cosmetic surgery in medical tourism, for example. Yeah. So you have a broad area of medical tourism, and you have a specific area of cosmetic surgery that is done by foreign tourists when they visit Malaysia, for example. Yeah. So there is a need to narrow down from the general topic that you have to something more specific. Okay, we have to have a focus, and we can only focus by narrowing down the general problem area to a specific researchable problem. Okay. And so you have to find out. Again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of reading, yeah, because you have to understand what is the problem, the bigger issue first, before understanding the gap of the research that's out there. Yeah. So, and you have to also understand the theoretical background behind the topic that you are looking at. Yeah, what are the theories involved, yeah, or what are the theories that can guide you in trying to do your research properly, yeah. So that's why reading and reading and reading is very important when we are trying to do academic research, yeah. The thing is, nowadays for you guys, it's very easy to get resources, because if you go to the library, there are a lot of electronic databases that you can use, yeah. So please take advantage of all this advanced technology. I also have been informed that if you use Mendeley and EndNote, it makes your information search and also your organization of knowledge or organization of information for your study more easy and more feasible. Yeah, it's not really too difficult as in the past. Yeah, so that's why use all this technology, learn them. If you use them, then it will become easy for you to adopt when you are actually doing your research later on. So learn them, learn how to use them, maybe talk to your friends how to use them, you know. This is the only way that you can learn, yeah. And you can adapt to new things that can be helpful, make things easier for you. Okay. um, Personal experiences can also help in trying to find a suitable research problem for your study. You know, for example, you have a brother or sister who's working in the hotel business, and they are always talking about lack of financial reward for the job that they have done. Dissatisfaction, lack of job satisfaction can be the issue, yeah. And you got this, you're passionate about this topic because your families are involved in the business and they are facing this issue. So that is what we meant by personal experiences, yeah. Literature review can also be another source that we look at. Yeah, this is of course very commonsensical, okay? Because when we are doing academic research, we have to read journal articles, we have to read academic sources of information, yeah. uh, we cannot get the background of the topic we're looking at by reading magazines or by watching TV or by watching Netflix. Not so much, yeah. uh, but it has to be by reading academic literature, particularly journals. And there are so many good journals out there. If you want to see whether a journal is good or not, then maybe you can go to Skimago, yeah, SCIMAGO on the internet, that will list, the name of good journals that people always refer to when they do their research. Yeah, because all these journals, they are ranked. Yeah, they are sometimes ranked as Q1. That means they are excellent. Yeah, they are the best kind of journals. And then there are Q2, Q3, Q4. There are Scopus journals. Yeah, so many categories of journals. Each have its own merit and useful for academic researcher to find information from. Okay. So again, try to familiarize yourself with all these categories of journals, and it is advisable to always read the good journals first, and try to find your information or past literature that can help you from these journals rather than the more common or more accessible open access journals. Yeah. Because there are some issues with open access. Not all open access are quality journals. So as a researcher, you have to be able to identify what makes a paper a good paper or not a good paper. Yeah, so that's why if you cannot decide this yourself, then start by looking at the best kind of journals, because these journals already have a good peer review system that makes sure the quality of journal article being published is good. Yeah, so that's why where the journal article come from makes a difference in trying to help you as a new researcher. Okay, never ever replicate from a previous study, or what we call reinventing the wheel, because if we keep repeating the same study, we are not contributing anything new to knowledge, and we risk the issue of originality right just now. Yeah, we do not have, our work is not original, and in fact maybe we will end up with issue of plagiarism, where our work is almost the same as another researcher's work, and so we don't know who plagiarized who, yeah, who copied who. Yeah, so yeah, that could be a problem later on that you don't want to take. So plan your research properly from the beginning. Okay, so when you start writing your problem statement, you have to indicate the variables of interest that you would include in your topic, yeah, and what are the relationship between these variables, yeah, and this has to be written clearly and unambiguously, yeah, clearly and straightforward. Do not write very long sentences that just can confuse readers. Yeah, you don't want to do that. A problem statement has to be very clearly written. Yeah, it defines all relevant variables either directly or operationally. Yeah, I think you remember what operational definition is about. Yeah, so you have to make sure you define all your constructs, all your concepts, all your variables, um, generally and operationally. Okay. So the problem statement will be written in chapter 1 of your entire work, yeah, so that this set up the framework or set up um, the story for what you are about to do in your the rest of your thesis, yeah, the rest of your academic research. Okay, so that's why it's only like about a few pages long, maybe 2 or 3, even lesser than that, but concisely written, precisely written. Yeah, so it depends on whether you're doing KP or thesis or PhD, the length varies. Yeah. So maybe at your level, at undergraduate level, depending on the topic, which should be, exploratory in nature or not as complicated as those trying to do master's degree or PhD degree. Okay, and so you have to develop your problem statement accordingly in your chapter 1. Okay, and another important aspect that we have to remember in writing the problem statement is avoidance of any moral or ethical judgment. Yeah, meaning here we do not try to put our own judgment on the issue that we are investigating at all. Yeah, not just in problem statement, but also as you are developing your instrument, as you are collecting your data, as you are writing your report. You have to make sure that you do not add your own personal value to the study that you are doing. Okay, because especially when we are doing quantitative approach, positivistic, yeah, you have to be objective. So you have to maintain that objectivity. Also, when we write our problem statement, this is where you clarify the purpose of the study. Okay, you conceptualize the problem in the context that it should be in. Yeah, clearly conceptualize the problem in within the context that it is that you are looking at. Yeah, for example, if you are looking at um, green attitude of students in University Utara Malaysia. Okay, so University Utara Malaysia will be your context. Okay, and the problem will be attitude, specifically green attitudes, right? So that could be one example. Of course, it depends again on the topic that you are looking at. Yeah, you should be having a presentation of the background as well before you actually write your problem statement. Okay, so normally the writing of your proposal will start with an introduction or a background. Yeah, so in this background you justify the study in terms of the problem. Okay, and so after you give the background or the introduction, then you will specify the problem of your study, yeah, by writing this problem statement. Okay, so normally the statement should be brief. Yeah, maybe just 1 page or 1.5 page rather than but if you are doing PhD, then this statement will be longer. Yeah, so you provide information regarding the reasons why the study is needed. Yeah, this is why this is the gap that I have mentioned earlier, the gap of study that is out there that your proposal is trying to address through your research. Yeah, so that's why you have to state this very clearly. What would be accomplished and what is the anticipated outcomes of the study being proposed. Okay, so this is what you should write in the problem statement. Once you have done that, then you will state it will be easier for you to state the research objectives, because the research objectives are objectives to address the problems you already highlighted in your problem statement. Okay, so when you have the research objective, this is the statement that will give direction on how the study can be conducted. Okay, so the objective will give direction to the study, give clear information about the limit of the study, and suggest how the study will be carried out. Okay, so I have an example here that you can probably look at. Yeah, objective is to determine the relationship between holiday destination choice of a particular group and the level of income of the particular group. Yeah, So this is already, you know, what is the IV and what is the DV. Yeah, the IV will be the destination choice and the level of income. Yeah, the level of income will affect choice. Yeah, so again, the level of income will be the independent variable affecting the dependent variable, which is choice. Okay, because that's the logic of it. Okay, or the evaluation of the performance of a public leisure and recreation service provided by a local authority. So this is more an evaluation of performance, yeah, of all the services provided. So probably you will be asking your respondents to rank or express their satisfaction level through like a scale or something, yeah, to give feedback on how the service is performing according to their perspective. Yeah? So those are just examples of objectives of study. It can be many things. It can be, again, whatever it is. What you need to understand is it depends on your topic. It depends on the gap of research you're looking at, yeah, and what research questions you have come up based on the gap of studies that you have looked at. So you will state the question in the form of a question, yeah, with question mark, of course. These are some examples, yeah. How has the new packaging affected the sales of the product? This is an example of a research question for a marketing study, yeah. How do price and quality rate on consumers' evaluation of products? Again, marketing study. What are positive and negative impacts of tourism development in community H? This is maybe an ecotourism study or any community-based tourism study. Yeah, so these are the way you formulate your question. Yeah, because when you put that in the form of question, these are the questions that will require answer, and the answer will come only through your data collection, data analysis, and data reporting. Yeah. What are some of the characteristics of a good research? Yeah. The question is one of the good characteristics of a feasible study is the fact that it is practical. Yeah, that means it can be investigated without any unnecessary addition of time, energy, or money. Yeah, so whatever that you have budgeted in the beginning, that is enough to do the study. Yeah, so the researchability, feasibility of conducting the research is one aspect of a good research. Yeah, and you will formulate this in the form of research question. Yeah, so the question has to be feasible. Yeah, it can be investigated within the amount of resources that you have. And clarity, that's another thing. Yeah, so it's practicality of feasibility and clarity. We have to write the question clearly. Yeah, most people would agree as to what the keywords in the question meaning. So if we have written the question clearly, your examiners will understand exactly what you are trying to do without any doubt, yeah, because it's already clearly written. Okay. This then the question is significant as well. Significant here means importance, yeah. Refer to research importance just now that I have mentioned to you, yeah. Is the question significant? Yeah, is the question worth investigating? Yeah, will it contribute some important knowledge? Okay, so that's what we need to assess when we write our research question. Is the question ethical? That's another aspect as well. Okay, because some question can be insensitive to certain communities. Yeah, so you don't want to be involved in any of this kind of unethical conduct where you try to research something that is sensitive to certain people. Okay, because then the research will be unethical. Yeah, And when a research does not um, care for its ethical consideration, then it is not a good research. Yeah. So the question also has to be ethical, not sensitive, not judging, not putting down certain communities or certain societies. Okay. Not racist, because racism is a real issue or a real problem out there too, right? And then you have to define the concepts or the terms. Yeah, the concepts or constructs are the representations of the phenomena being studied. Yeah, so it is like the building block of the study. Yeah, so for example, green hotel. The study of green hotel will that means you have to understand the concepts of environmental management. Yeah, the concepts of pro-environmental behavior. All those are the concepts or representation of the phenomena of green hotel adoption, yeah, or green hotel practices. Yeah. So again, you look at the big your topic and what are some of the concepts that you should include in writing up your problem statement and later on your literature review. Okay. So, understanding relevant concepts or constructs is very important when you try to develop your own research. Yeah, you have to define the concepts. You have to operationally define the concepts. Yeah, I think if I have already mentioned to you what operational definition is. Yeah, the operational definition makes the construct you're looking at more quantifiable, more easy to measure. Yeah, so I will give you later on an example of what a definition and operational definition would look like, yeah, in the class. So, but basically what you need to know is when we do an operational definition, we can measure the constructs that we are defining. Okay. So operationalization of a concept involves deciding how it might be measured, yeah, and the process involved in deciding how the concept might be identified or assessed in a non-quantified manner when conducting a qualitative research. Yeah, so it's either can be measured if it is quantitative research, or it can be assessed or identified if it is qualitative research that you are adopting, yeah, you are doing. Okay, operational definitions enable us to identify the presence or absence of a given concept in a person, group, event, for example. Yeah, so one example here given is well-traveled tourist. Yeah, well-traveled tourist is very abstract. So how do you operationally define well-traveled? Yeah, how far does the tourist have to go in terms of distance, for example, to consider them as well-traveled tourists? Yeah, so maybe in your operational definition, you say, okay, well-traveled tourists are tourists who have traveled more than 3 times in the last year, for example. Yeah, so that's how you give measurement to the abstract concept of well-traveled. Yeah, so I hope you understand that. Okay. Okay, and then variables are everything that we will be using for our in our hypothesis as well as in our analysis. Yeah, so concepts that have been operational defined becomes variable. Yeah, for concepts that we want to measure will become our variables. Yeah, and according to Sakaran in 2003, this is anything that can take on differing or varying values. The values can differ at various times for the same object or person, or at the same time for different objects or person. Okay, so again, what it's saying here is that it depends on how we operationally define the concept. Yeah, so that would be our variable. Yeah? Variables have several qualities central to any scientific explanation because they represent features that are changeable. Yeah, They can assume any one of a designated set of values. They can be arranged in a certain time order with respect to one another, enhancing the prospect of certain cause-effect relationships among them. Okay, so basically what it says here is that variables are important things, but subject to the definition that you have already given to your constructs. Yeah, so that's why they are changeable. Yeah, so you need to have to make sure that the operational definition of your constructs are proper for the purpose of your study. Okay, then you can allocate which one would be the IV, the DV, the intervening, the moderating variables of your study. Yeah. So independent variable will be anything that will affect something. Yeah, I will explain this more in the next slides. Then we have the dependent variable. That means anything that will be affected by the independent variable. Yeah, and then moderating variable, which is in the middle of a relationship between independent and dependent variable, or intervening variable, which is also in the middle of the relationship between independent and dependent variable. I will explain to you further here. Okay, the independent variable are presumed to affect or influence. So when we say influence, the determinants of uh, satisfaction level, tourist satisfaction level, for example. So all those determinants, those are the independent variable. What would be those determinants when you're talking about satisfaction? Maybe we're talking about the amount of money that a tourist have would determine whether how satisfied they are with their vacation. Okay, maybe we're talking about price. Yeah, how things are priced maybe will affect the satisfaction of a tourist. Maybe we're talking about safety aspect, yeah, that could affect a tourist satisfaction level during their stay. It can be anything that will affect the IV. Okay, so any influential factors or determinants, these are independent variables. Yeah, sometimes they are referred to as stimulus, input, active, or predictor variables also. Yeah, but these are just different names for the same thing. Yeah, it is that factor which is measured, manipulated, or selected by the researcher or experimenter to determine its relationship to an observed phenomenon. So you have to measure using your instrument that you develop, either qualitative or quantitative, yeah, either survey instrument or research protocol, um, to the interview protocol, I mean, to measure these determinants or independent variable that you have already identified for your study. Yeah? The opposite end of that, the dependent variable, are the ones to assume to be being affected, yeah, by the independent variable. So sometimes they are referred to as response, output, attribute, or criterion variable. Okay, so it is a factor which is observed or measured to determine the effect of the independent variables. So we look at the study, I mean the dependent variables, and how they change as independent variables changes. Okay, so this is a type of a marketing study, yeah, where we're looking at, for example, service quality of any entity, such as, like, let's say in this topic, AirAsia. Yeah, so when you looking at service quality, it has been established in past research or past studies, or that the independent variables that will affect service quality would be reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangibles. Okay, so these are independent variables which have been identified in the past to have some kind of influence on service quality. Okay, so that's why this 5 are independent variables, whereas service quality is the dependent variable. Okay, this is just again just an example. The moderating variable is a factor which is measured, manipulated, or selected by a researcher to discover whether it modifies, it changes, yeah, the relationship of the independent variable to an observed phenomenon. Okay, so as a researcher, you are curious to know if, for example, income influence the level of satisfaction, I mean the relationship between age and satisfaction, for example. Yeah, so you use income as a factor to moderate. You're just testing this to see if it has any effect. So the income there is a moderating variable, yeah, because it is there to influence or to change the relationship between age and satisfaction level just now. Okay, this is again an example. The intervening variable is a factor which theoretically affects the observed phenomenon but cannot be seen, measured, or manipulated. Yeah? Its effects must be inferred from the effects of the independent and moderated variables of the observed phenomenon. Okay, so this is a intervening variable is more difficult to measure. Actually, it makes the research more complicated when you try to consider something as an intervening variable. So it is not affecting the relationship, the direct relationship between dependent and independent variable, but it affects the relationship between the independent and the moderating variable, for example. So it becomes more complicated, and the analysis you have to do in order to understand this complicated relationship is even more so. Yeah, so that's why at your level, undergraduate level, I don't think it's a good idea for you to try to do study on something involving intervening variable or even moderating variable. So you start simple by just understanding direct relationship or indirect relationship between IV and DV. Okay, because that will make your research researchable, practical. Okay. So this is just a diagrammatic representation of what I have already mentioned to you just now. You see how moderating variable is in the middle. It modifies, the relationship between IV and DV. Yeah, so you either have direct relationship between IV or DV, or a relationship between IV and DV that is moderated by something. Yeah. And if you have an intervening, this is another factor that you add there to assume something that is a little bit less measurable, affecting the relationship between IV and DV. Okay. Now we have to look at the issue of hypothesis. Okay. Um, Hypothesis is actually an assumed relationship between two or more variables expressed in the form of a testable statement. This is what Sakaran 2003 said. Yeah. So it is actually a statement that you develop to assume a relationship between the variables that you look at. Yeah, that's what hypothesis is really about, actually. And you do this based on what you already understood about the relationship of those variables in the literature in the past. Yeah, what other people or what past researcher has found in terms of the relationship between those variables. Yeah, now you're trying to test it within your context. Yeah, okay, so that is a hypothesis. Okay, Tuckman 1979 see it as a suggested answer to the problem. So by stating the hypothesis, you are actually proposing an answer to the problem that you are looking at. Okay. Gay in 1996 says that it is a tentative explanation. Tentative means unproven, yeah, or suggested explanation of certain behaviors, phenomena, or events that have occurred or will occur. Okay, and then there is the hypothesis that a hypothesis states that the researcher's expectations. Okay, so when we write a hypothesis, we are stating what we assume the relationship to be. Yeah, we are stating what we expect to see from our analysis later on with regards to the variables that we are looking at. Okay, so that's why we have to test the hypothesis. We state the hypothesis and then we test it, and based on the input that we get using SPSS, we can infer whether the hypothesis can be supported or not supported. Okay, so a characteristic of a good hypothesis is that it must be clearly and precisely stated. So all through writing up a proposal or research report, clarity is very important. Yeah, clarity of writing is very important. So it's so that it is easy for readers to understand what you meant to say through your writing. Yeah, so that's why sometimes it is a challenge when we try to write in a language that is not our own. Yeah, which is a very common problem to our researchers here in Malaysia when they try to publish in English language journals. Yeah, so that's always the issue of clarity or lack of succinct writing or clear writing of your work, which means you have to rely on proofreader. Yeah, to help make your work more clear to the reviewers, because the reviewers are often native speakers. Yeah, so they have a specific way of writing something clearly, and which is something that we as a non-native English speaker have to learn from and have to master, actually, if you want to go to that level. Yeah, but normally we do not have such ability, so we use the help of proofreader to make sure our writing is clear. Okay, so even a hypothesis have to be clearly or precisely stated. It should be testable. Yeah, you should be able to test it using some kind of analysis in SPSS. Yeah, it should state relationship between variables, whether it's direct relationship, indirect relationship, whatever. Yeah, it should be limited in scope because it has to be precise, right? So it cannot be too broad. It has to be limited in scope. Yeah, it should be consistent with most known facts. Yeah, that means here it must be logical hypothesis. Yeah, it should be statement as far as possible in simple terms. To make something clear, you have to write simple. Yeah, to have a clear writing, you have to use simple words. There's no need to use jargons or big words because it will just make things more complicated and difficult to understand. Yeah. So the hypothesis should also be testable within a reasonable period of time. That means the relevance have to be there. Yeah, it has to be a logical statement that is relevant to the context at the time. Where do hypotheses come from? Okay, uh, given a problem statement, for example, are A and B related? There are three possible hypotheses. Yeah, it can be A increases, so does B. Yeah, so that is one kind of relationship. A decrease, A increase or B decrease. This is an inverse relationship. Okay, or no, A and B are unrelated. There is no relationship. Okay, so number one here is direct relationship. So that's why when whatever happens to A will also influence B in the same manner. Or inversely relationship, as in number two here, or no relationship. Okay, and also sometimes we can write the hypothesis by considering the direction as well. Yeah, it can be either directional or non-directional. Okay, directional hypothesis indicate the direction of the relationship between the variables, such as either positive or negative, more than, less than, or other words that are used in that way. Yeah. So an example given here is the greater the experience in the job, the lower the job satisfaction of employees. So this is a hypothesis that uh, uh, show inverse relationship. Yeah, the greater the experience, the lower the job satisfaction. Okay, so uh, there are again, it depends on what relationship we are um, proposing for those variables that we are looking at. Okay, if you want to use more than, this is an example here. International tourists are more environmentally friendly than local tourists. That's the kind of hypothesis, example of hypothesis that is directional when you use the word more than. Okay. Non-directional hypothesis does not show direction, does not show that it's positive or negative. Yeah, it does not postulate a relationship or difference, but offer no indication of the direction of this relationship. Yeah, so there is a relationship between age and job satisfaction. This is the way we state it, because we don't want to say there is a positive relationship or there is a negative relationship between age and job satisfaction, because that would be directional. Yeah, if we do not want to assume direction, non-directional means this is the way we should write it. There is a relationship between age and job satisfaction. Okay. And lastly, there are two types of hypothesis, which is null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Yeah? Null hypothesis, or what we often see in journal articles expressed as HO, expressed as no significant relationship between two variables or no significant difference between two groups. Yeah. So when there is no relationship, this is what we call a null hypothesis. This is how we express it using the null hypothesis. Yeah, it is expressed as no relationship or no significant difference, no difference between two groups. Whereas alternate is the opposite of that. Yeah, alternate, or expressed as HA, express a relationship between two variables or indicating differences between the groups. Okay, so you can see, I think clearly here, the difference between the two type of hypothesis. Yeah, one is proposing a relationship and one is not proposing a relationship. Okay, uh, alternate hypothesis and null hypothesis. Okay, so I hope that you're clear about that, and we stop here for now, and I will continue in the next topic that we will be covering. Okay, take care, see you.